Welcome to Lecture 5 on Learning. So in our last video, we were talking about Thorndike's law of effect, which states we repeat behaviors that lead to favorable consequences, and we don't repeat behaviors that lead to unfavorable consequences. So I want to look at reinforcement versus punishment and how we use each of these to when we're using operant conditioning. A reinforcement increases the probability of a behavior. A punishment decreases the probability of a behavior. Please go watch the video titled Learning, Negative Reinforcement versus Punishment. You'll find that on Moodle in the folder titled Chapter 6, Learning Lecture Videos. Welcome back. So the concept of negative reinforcement versus punishment can be kind of complicated, and I'm hoping that as we go through examples, I'll be able to clarify that for you. So again, reinforcement increases the probability of a behavior. Punishment decreases the probability of a behavior. Now, you can have positive reinforcement and positive punishment. You can have negative reinforcement and negative punishment. These differ in simply, do you add a stimuli or do you remove a stimuli from the situation? If you're going to use positive punishment, you add a stimuli. If you're going to use negative punishment, you're going to remove a stimuli. So positive reinforcement. This is where you present a reinforcer that increases the desired behavior. And this strengthens a response. So if you want to increase the likelihood of a learned behavior, positive reinforcement is one way to do that. Because it's positive, it's always going to increase the behavior. This is commonly thought of as a reward, but the official scientific terminology, people, is reinforcement. So some examples of positive reinforcement. Elizabeth is 24 months old and learning to be potty trained. Using positive reinforcement, I sing the Elizabeth went to the potty song, which makes Elizabeth feel like a big girl. That increases the likelihood that she's going to work to be potty trained again and again and again. It takes a while. Now, I could use all kinds of positive reinforcers. A positive reinforcer is where I add something to the situation to increase the likelihood of a behavior. I could use treats, hugs, verbal praise. There's all kinds of things I could use as positive reinforcement. Some other examples. You go to work so you can pay your bills. You take a shower so that you have friends. You exercise so that you can eat your favorite dessert tonight. These are all examples of positive reinforcement. Then we have negative reinforcement. This can be a little odd. This is where a response is strengthened by removing or avoiding a consequence. So, with negative reinforcement strengthens the likelihood of a behavior happening because the subject can avoid an unpleasant or adverse event. Do not confuse negative reinforcement with punishment. They are not the same. So make sure you're really clear about that as you're studying for the exam. So negative reinforcement is where you're going to strengthen a behavior because the subject can avoid or remove a consequence. So some examples. Ian hates to sit in his child's seat in the car. Ian's dad just purchased a new car, and whenever someone is in the car without a seatbelt, a loud buzzing noise sounds until seatbelts are buckled. Ian really hates the buzzing sound and will sit in his child seat and buckle his seatbelt immediately upon entering the car. That's an example of negative reinforcement. Ian hates his car seat, but he hates that buzzing sound even more. So that buzzing sound works as a negative reinforcer. When something's a reinforcement, it increases the likelihood of a behavior. And in this situation, it's a negative. We're taking away an adverse stimuli. Ian wants to avoid the buzzing sound. So the likelihood, he's more likely and more likely to buckle his seatbelt right away in his child seat when he gets in the car because he wants to avoid the buzzing sound. So that's an example of negative reinforcement. Some other examples. Taking out the garbage because it stinks. You're more likely to take out the garbage when you realize your kitchen isn't going to stink if you take the garbage out. Taking an aspirin because you have a headache. And the aspirin allows you to get rid of the headache, to take that headache away. Cleaning your room so your mom stops nagging you. My mom was a really good nagging mom, but super nice too. Another example, driving the speed limit to keep your insurance rates low. So, with negative reinforcement, because it's a reinforcement, you've increased the likelihood of a behavior happening because the subject can escape, negate, or avoid a stimuli. That brings us to positive punishment and negative punishment. So with positive punishment, a response is weakened by the subsequent presentation of a stimulus. With negative punishment, a response is weakened by the subsequent removal of a stimulus. So, some examples. Andrew owns a small coffee shop. Recently, some high school kids have been hanging out in front of his shop, and they've been bothering his customers. To try to get the kids to go somewhere else, Andrew installs music speakers outside of his store, his shop, and he plays classical music whenever school is out for the day. Now, this is a positive punishment. And interestingly, this actually works. Businesses do this. And it works quite effectively. So this is a positive punishment. You want kids to stop hanging out. So because you want them to stop a behavior, you have to use a punishment. It's a positive punishment because you've added classical music to decrease hanging out in front of the shop. Some more examples. Grounding your son for stealing his sister's Halloween candy. Squirting your cat with water for chewing on your expensive artificial Christmas tree. Assigning your child extra chores. So with these are positive punishment examples. They're positive because you're adding to the situation. So you've added water or extra chores, or you add a grounding and then because it's a punishment, it's going to decrease a behavior. Some negative punishment examples. Sorry, just a second. Okay. So with negative punishment, we're taking a stimuli away because we want to decrease the likelihood of a behavior. So Elizabeth is 5 years old and really likes to play games with her dad. But Elizabeth doesn't like to play by the rules. Her dad can use negative punishment. So every time Elizabeth tries to cheat at Candyland, her dad just gets up and walks away from the table. It's actually a very effective way to deal with children when they're misbehaving, is to just remove yourself from the situation. It depends on the situation. But, so, her dad has used negative punishment. Removing himself from the room is a punishment. He's taking away a stimuli from the situation. It's a negative punishment because it decreases the likelihood that Elizabeth is going to cheat at Candyland. Some more examples. You discover your teenage daughter keeps sneaking your boyfriend into her bedroom at night. You remove the door from her bedroom. By removing the door, that's a punishment. It's a negative punishment because you want to decrease her boyfriend coming into her bedroom at night. Your 4-year-old twins keep fighting over toys. You remove the toy and put it in the closet. It's a punishment because you're decreasing the behavior. It's a negative punishment because you're taking something away. Your son keeps promising to promising to mow the lawn, but never does. So you take away his cell phone and internet until he mows the lawn. Actually quite effective. This is a negative punishment because you're decreasing a behavior. Oh, how did I flip this? So it's a negative punishment. You're taking something away from the situation. Actually, this is a really bad example. Ignore this example, please. I don't know why I was framing it this way. We're going to ignore this example. The rest of them are really good, though. Okay, so that's the end of lecture number 5.